I mean, a wolf's got teeth that can defend itself. I've got, 7 rocket launchers on my back.
And welcome back to another episode of Exposing Ourselves. I'm Travis Ritchie, and this is episode 37. This is the show where we expose each other to new things. Matt, a big music fan, will assign me one of his favorite music artists to listen to each week, and I, a movie buff, will give him one of my favorite films, and we come together on this podcast to discuss it all. And with me, as always, is my very good friend,
Matt Runquist. Hi, Travis. How you doing? This week, I watched the movie Prey, and you listened to New Zealand indie band The Beths.
Oh, I listened to the Beths.
The Beths.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah. Well, how are you, Matt? It has been a week since I've seen you.
It has been a week since you've seen me.
Because that's how this show works.
That is the format. It's been a pretty good week for me. I have spent the week recovering from the cold that has affected our last 2 recording dates, and I'm still getting there.
Are you sure it was the cold? Because COVID cases are rising.
I did test for COVID and came up negative, but I only tested once. And I know sometimes you can get a later positive. It didn't seem like COVID, to be honest with you. I realize, that I've never had it as far as I'm aware.
Really?
Yeah, I'm completely virginal when it comes to COVID, but
and in many other ways, my friend.
At least 7, yes.
At least 7 virginal ways.
Yes, at least 7 virginal ways is a great name for an album.
That is a great name for an album. That's your next Stankhole tank Spanky.
I do love that you can't remember the name of the band exactly, but that's okay. Speaking of the band,
Virgin Stankhole, that's what it's called.
Today, this podcast is gonna come out on the 24th of September. There we go. And September, it's a totally normal word that I can say.
Months are hard.
Yeah. And I've got a song coming out today. Yeah. I've got a new song coming out, my first recording that I've made since May, I think. And it's a re-recording of a song that my college band did. I really, really like it. I'm excited about it. And I'd like all of our listeners to go check it out on all the major music platforms. It should be out right as we speak.
As you're listening, if you can hear our words right now, you can go hear that song. And what's the song called?
The song is called War, which is actually an acronym for We Are Right. And it's an anti-war anthem that my high school friend Chris and I wrote many, many moons ago. And
back before war was even a problem.
Back before war was even a problem. Yeah. So anyways, I was going to play like a little bit of it here. I've dropped it in the chat so you can listen along. We'll do this with a bad recording, and then I'll drop a nice, clean recording into the thing that you all hear. But we're just going to listen to the first 30 seconds now. So check it out, Travis. All right, cool.
Okay, do I have you back?
Yeah, you have me back. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm going to put the whole song for the listeners after the end credits so that anybody who's not interested in Panko Stankhole, I can't imagine such a person, but such a person must exist. Multiverses and stuff, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm going to put it after the credits, but I'm really excited, and I am going to play it at my show on September 24th at X-Ray Arcade in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I'm going to be in the Battle of the Bands. If you're in the area, come check it out. It's a fundraiser for Girls Rock Milwaukee. It's a great cause. We'd love to see you. So that, Travis, is my news for you.
That is great, and I'm really glad that that stuff is going on for you, and also that you went first, because coming into today, I was not in a great mood. I'm probably in the worst mood today than I have ever been, on recording this podcast in the year we've been doing this almost.
We should make a little stinger for "It's the Worst Mood."
Yeah. No, well, and this is making me happier, so thank you for that. I also walked all the way to the second closest Starbucks and got myself a pumpkin spice latte, which I needed the extra distance, and actually I used the time to listen to today's music.
Oh, nice.
And got myself which actually made me feel better, and also talked to my mom a little bit, which makes me feel better. Hi, Mom. And but it was not this music that made me feel bad, by the way. It wasn't. That's not completely why. But what teaser. So I'll tell you. Okay, the big thing was that I had to take Coco into the vet this week for a pretty major oral surgery.
Oh no!
And I can't say anything more because there might be some legal issues going on as I deal with the vet and insurance. But go ahead and take a look at your photos that I just sent you, and you can see what I had to have done.
Oh
with
my
her.
Goodness! What on earth?
Yeah, it was very bad, and she's doing great. She's doing great now. But in addition to the severity of the procedure, the cost was very high, and I don't really have any money. I do have pet insurance, though, and the vet assures me that this will be covered, but until it actually is, I'm, of course, wary.
Yeah.
Because I've never used pet insurance before.
Yeah.
I've never, I never had any for Dot, and, didn't really need it. So, that happened this week, and I'm a little bit, I'll talk to you about what it is after we're done here, if you'd like. So that happened. And then I don't know if you heard, this will be kind of old news by the time this goes up, but a couple of daytime talk shows decided to go back on the air. Drew Barrymore and a couple others. Bill Maher, who is not daytime talk show, but also decided to go back. And there has been a ton of flack and negative reaction on this. And I was a little perturbed, to be honest, because the contract that at least Drew Barrymore has, and shows like The Talk and other daytime talk shows, is not the same contract that SAG actors are negotiating right now. It is what they call a network code contract, and it's not under renegotiation. It's a valid contract, and so SAG actors are under a no strike rule when it comes to contracts that are valid. So we are not allowed to strike if we are offered a job under a contract that is valid, okay?
Okay.
And Drew Barrymore is not a member of the WGA. So for her to go back to work doesn't affect or cross WGA picket lines, but it does fulfill her contract as a SAG actor. And so I was pointing that out to some people online and on this Hollywood Strike Facebook group, and I got banned for pointing out that maybe we shouldn't be pissed off at Drew Barrymore. We should stay pissed off at the AMPTP, which is the producers' trade organization, and we should celebrate any work that actors get under contracts that aren't the ones being renegotiated, because that only helps actors.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little bit peeved about that, that online everybody just wants to be angry, and we're so quick to anger and so slow to rational, nuanced thought that involves facts and truth. And it just makes me, it just made me really upset. And so I've been dealing with that this weekend. And I was going back to work on the show, on the daytime show that I work on, because we're under that, current SAG contract that is not being renegotiated, and we were forced to delay as well, not because people were mad at our show, but because people were so mad at Drew Barrymore, they decided to wait for our show as well. So that means I'm again out of work, even though I was working for a little bit. So that's of course stressful. So
that's
big dog bill and
that's
no
tough.
work. That's what I've been dealing with this week.
That's really tough.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't mean to burden you with that, but I will say all of that to say that this interaction that we have, this show,
Yeah.
our thing,
Yeah.
brings me joy.
Oh.
And I really look forward to it. And I look forward to talking with you every week. And it's been nice doing this.
Well,
so thank you.
Travis, I also find your presence unobjectionable.
It's like the Eliza Doolittle thing. I've become accustomed to your face.
No, I really enjoy this as well. I wouldn't have done it for nearly 40 episodes if I didn't. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, should we get into the meat?
Yeah, let's get into the meat. Let's shake things up and do the what did we do last week first?
Nobody knows and nobody cares. Let's do the movie.
Let's do the movie first. All right. I had you watch a movie that I was excited. I've been thinking about having you watch for a while now, ever since we did the Predator episode in episode 18, and it's the movie Prey, which is the latest edition of the Predator franchise. Now, this movie was way under the radar for a long, long time until the trailer dropped sometime in 2001, I think.
Probably 21, yeah.
Yeah, and so you're watching this trailer, and it's a movie about an indigenous, American Indian female warrior who wants to be a warrior in a group that doesn't want her. She's a Comanche woman, and they don't really have female warriors, but she wants to be a warrior, and so she's out running and hunting, and she's crouched in this field, and then all of a sudden the 3 laser dots show up on the guy that's with her, and you realize it's a Predator movie. Now, I thought, I was kind of waiting. I didn't want to give away that this was a Predator movie to you, because even though I've seen this before, something in my mind had kind of retconned the movie so that they didn't give away that it was a predator that she was hunting until the scene with the bear.
Oh, okay.
Where the bear attacks her, and then it fights the bear, and then it is covered in the bear's blood as it's holding the bear over its head. And I thought that was the big reveal, and I was like, so I wanted to say that, but it's not that at all. The first shot of the movie is like a spaceship coming into the clouds, and it's some sort of sci-fi thing. So, but that being set aside, I really enjoyed the story, and the Predator sequels have been so lacking. Ever since Predator 2 was kind of okay, but it was really just it was a bit of a retread. And I like that this went back in time. Normally, I don't like a prequel. I don't like something that takes place before the original. But I thought they did it pretty skillfully in this movie.
Yeah, it's funny because I guess this is technically a prequel, but it's not a prequel in the sense of setting up the characters or the story or anything like that.
None of the same characters. It's really just mythology.
Yeah, it's really just mythology. And so in that sense, it's not really a prequel so much as a standalone movie in the same universe.
Yeah, so it was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who I want to talk about a little later on, and it was starred Amber Midthunder and Dakota Beavers, who are actual Native American actors, and the interesting thing about this movie is it was shot. There is an English version of it and a Comanche version of it. You can watch the whole movie in Comanche and with subtitles, and so that's. I thought that was fairly interesting, and they clearly take great pains to portray the Comanche people in the early 1700s accurately, or at least in within the constraints of a story about a predator, and so it's very interesting. I apologize for not giving you a dog warning, although the dog is fine. The dog is just fine.
Yeah. I spent most of the movie wondering, though. I did spend most of the movie
as soon as the dog appeared on screen, and I didn't realize, I'd forgotten that she had a pet dog, and it's this Carolina dog that was around back then. as soon as it appeared, I was like, "Oh no!" But then, of course, I was like, "No, the dog's fine." They include the dog smartly to give her character someone to give exposition to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
very clever.
So brilliant, because I talk to my dog all the time when we're on walks, and she does the same thing and just tells the dog things that the audience needs to know. And I thought that was just brilliant. But anyway, I've gone on too long already. What did you think of this movie? You liked Predator, right? The original.
I liked but didn't love Predator. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And
what do you think of this one?
I liked this. I liked it quite a bit. I do think it's very clever the way that it takes what is essentially the exact same story and sets it in a totally different time and place and makes it work. Yeah, the acting is fantastic. These actors are a wonderful discovery, and I hope they get some more work in mainstream Hollywood and not just in like Indian films, because like they're fantastic, really, really good actors.
Yeah.
I loved the dog. I loved, it was right, because one of the problems that you need to overcome when having, essentially like an Ewoks versus Stormtroopers style story is like, what are the ways in which the sort of naturistic people, how do they get an advantage, right? And sure, there's we know the land better than the predator, but like we have this trained companion that can help us overcome some of our disadvantages in the way that technology helps the predator. It's funny, right? Because there is this part of me that watches these Predator movies and go, man, these guys are just total jerks, right? But, I mean, it's funny because they're kind of like a metaphor for a hunter, like a human hunter, right? Where, human hunters will talk a big game about like how it's, you against the beast and blah, blah, blah. But of course, you have a gun, right?
Right.
And you have a team of people often helping you track the thing, and you have, cameras and all kinds of technology that help you perform the hunt and get in position to shoot the shot. And predators are like that too. It's like, they have this code of honor where they won't attack something that can't defend itself. But boy, is that's a real, like, well, I mean, a wolf's got teeth that can defend itself. I've got, 7 rocket launchers on my back, and he's got teeth, So it's basically an even fight, right? And there is this part of you that's like, I think you're defining, like, can defend itself very...
You're giving yourself limits when you don't have to,
right?
In order to make yourself feel like it's a fair fight.
Yeah. When it is patently not a fair fight.
Sure.
But yeah, I
did notice though in this viewing of this one that the Predator does things differently than in the first movie.
Right. And I thought that
he
was
actually
cool.
He'll generally attack someone using the weapon or using his version of the weapon that person uses on him.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
So someone attacks him with a spear, he'll use his little spear thing. Someone attacks him with an arrow, he'll use his little arrow, like his little guided arrows. Someone attacks him with a net, he uses this crazy like retractable net thing.
Well, the bear,
and those kind of things.
He fought the bear by hand.
Barehanded, exactly. No pun intended.
Too late.
So yeah, exactly. So that was an interesting element to this movie that I don't think they did in the first one. The other kind of meta thing, because it had a lot of callbacks to the first movie.
Yeah.
Things like Jesse Ventura's line, "If it bleeds, we can kill it," was in there. Her, like, when she's cornered at the end and she's kind of trying to lure it into his trap, she goes, "Do it!" just like Arnold Schwarzenegger did. But one of the big differences is when Arnold was fighting the Predator, Arnold got rid of his technology and went more tribal, right? Whereas this character, Naru, she adapts to use the Predator's weapons against him, which I thought was a really interesting and different take on that battle.
Yeah, that's a
dynamic.
really nice reversal for sure. Yeah, if I had to read this movie for something, it is probably hewing maybe a little bit too closely to the plot of the original Predator. Like, if you've watched Predator, you know all of these story beats, and I mean, even to the extent that like there's like the Frenchman in this movie, and there's the like the drug runners in the original movie,
yeah,
like
okay.
and like. This didn't make me like not like the movie or anything, but it did feel like maybe it was just a little bit too familiar and a little bit too fan servicey. Like they did a great job of sneaking that Jesse Ventura line in there, but they also snuck that Jesse Ventura line in there, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think the French trappers were a bit more of a direct threat than the Colombians or whoever they were in the first movie, and so I did appreciate that. I also think that she was always a bit of a loner, and there were other Comanche warriors around, mainly to be fodder to the Predator, but she was never part of a team, right? She was always trying to gain respect and those kind of things. Whereas with the Predator, with the original, it was a team that was whittled down one by one.
Yeah, for sure.
Until there was only one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when we watched the original Predator, one of my things that I was like pleasantly surprised by was like when I was halfway through the movie and it felt like the plot, like all the plot had already been expended. I was like, good Lord, how long is this last battle going to be? And it really like zipped by. This one did drag for me a little. There was definitely a part about 2/3 the way through the movie where I'm like, this is a little too long,
I can see that. Yeah. I will say, so speaking of the original, we talked about how lush the cinematography was and the setting of the jungle and all that. This has a similar beauty. I thought the Great Plains were, or the mountains or wherever it took place, were filmed beautifully. I loved the hills and I loved the mountains and the clouds. And, just the cinematography was pretty gorgeous, and the camera work.
Yes, and actually, what I would like to say is not only was beautiful, but like, can you imagine if The Revenant had looked like this? Right?
Yes.
Or
right.
Power of the Dog had looked like this. Like,
yeah.
Like, why were those movies so ugly when this is what you have to work with?
That's a really good point. When you couldn't, it clearly established that you can have a really nice period piece that looks beautiful, and they had different set pieces. Like there was the little burning section, and there was the the river and the forest and all those things and the nighttime scenes, and they were all beautiful.
I liked how well defined the tribe was. Like that they weren't just appendages to the story, that there was like, you could understand that, oh, there is a real life going on here. They talked about we need to move the village soon because of this thing that's happening. I just felt like that was really well done. Like those characters in the village felt like characters and not like caricatures.
Yeah. Sure.
How do you know anything about the writing of this? Like who wrote it and what?
So it's the story. So I just had the screenplay up. The screenplay is by Patrick Azon, who did the story with Dan Trachtenberg, and they had been working on it for a few years before it went into production. So at least 4 years, I'm told. And Dan. So this is a good time to talk about Dan Trachtenberg. Dan got his really, kind of got his break when he did a fan film in the around 2010, 2011 for the Portal game.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you remember seeing that. It was big on YouTube back then, and it was this beautiful, well done fan film about this woman who wakes up in a Portal prison and has to figure out a way out. And because of that, J.J. Abrams, I don't know if it was JJ, but whoever, gave him the reins to direct 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was kind of the sequel spin-off movie to
Cloverfield?
to Cloverfield. Yeah, exactly. It was a completely different story, but he did that in 2016, and at the same time, I think he directed an episode of like Black Mirror, and then did an episode of The Boys, and maybe I think he's coming on board Stranger Things now. But yeah, this is just his third movie.
Okay.
Or no, second movie. Because, the first one was just a short. So it was one of the first times he wrote the story. And so what you're asking is if they had native writers on board. I don't think that they did.
It's clear that they had consultants. Right.
Sure.
You
yes.
know,
yes.
like,
well, they talk about taking great pains to be respectful and inclusive of the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. It's a really good movie. You know, I think this is one of those movies that I liked better while I was watching it than while I was thinking about it afterwards, right? Just because, there was the pacing issue. I'm basically just trying to tell you, like, this might not score as high as you might hope it would.
Okay.
Just because, like, I didn't notice while I was sitting there, like, oh man, this hits all of the Predator story beats. But afterwards, I was like, oh yeah, they really did just kind of retell Predator like in a pretty straight way, you know, and like no disrespect intended, right? Like,
sure,
that's a perfectly valid way to do this kind of movie, right? But
it's kind of the Predator thing. And if you look at any franchise, I will throw in a little defense here, and say that's essentially how every Friday the 13th works, or every Nightmare on Elm Street works. They all kind of have the same.
Yeah. But I really liked it. One thing I'll point out is that I typically hate handheld camera. Like, I find shaky cam to be really distracting and frustrating. This was really great. One, because it was subtle, right? There was very little of the like random motion. It was clear that they were just using handheld cameras in situations where they wanted to get like a sense of closeness to people that were like hiding or something like that. And they weren't like deliberately moving the camera more than a handheld camera would move. Sometimes when you see like handheld camera, it's like, it's literally, you could tell that they're like jogging the camera. And there's part of me that's like, you're a professional camera operator. I know you can hold it steadier than this.
Yeah.
Right.
There's behind the scenes video of like, I remember the Star Trek movie where J.J. Abrams directed it, and he's literally like, you could see him shaking the camera to get that. Yeah, I agree with you on that, and I thought that man, some of the action though, like when she rips off the thing's tusk, and stabs it with it.
That's so good.
Like, it was just a really, or even just when she understands his technology enough just through clever observation, which they set up early by having her be kind of an expert tracker. Like, she can see things in tracks that are easy to point out. Like, once you point them out, the audience is like, yeah, she's not magic, her knowledge, but she is able to see how he uses his technology so that during the fight, she causes it to chop off his own arm.
Right.
Which I thought was also great.
Yeah.
She, I liked the characterization of the Predator as kind of a, like a juvenile almost.
Yes.
Like, you can kind of tell that this is maybe its first hunt. He's off. He's learning how the planet works. Maybe this is his first time on Earth, and he's learning what all the different other predators on the planet do.
Yeah.
The snake, the wolf, those kind of things, until he discovers the humans. And so he gets cocky.
Yeah.
Like, his technology, his advanced technology kind of makes him get cocky. And so you can see as the movie goes on, he takes small injuries and then slightly bigger injuries and keeps on like, getting a little more and more injured until finally she manages to kill him. I'll also say about the Predator, one thing I loved, and as a big sci-fi nerd, I didn't know how they were going to tell a story in the past when human technology is so much more primitive, 300 years more primitive. What were they going to do with the predators? They managed to backtrack the predator technology enough to make it pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And so that it doesn't have the plasma launcher, you know, the basically the laser guided missile thing, whatever. It has these like guided, you know, metal projectiles.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same, you know, it doesn't have the same mask with the breathing apparatus.
Right.
It has to fashion its own mask out of a skull and use that. So I was very impressed with the creature design.
Yeah.
Let me just say that on this movie.
No, it was really good. It was really good.
Yeah. Incidentally, the dog's name is Sari, but the dog who played Sari was named Coco.
Nice. What a perfect name.
I know, interesting. Spelled differently without the A, so it's just like Coco Chanel, but still.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool to discover.
That's very cool.
So, you got anything else to add? We can go ahead and rate it.
I think I'm ready to rate.
Be my guest.
So I liked this. I didn't love it. I'm trying to remember what I gave the original Predator, because I almost feel like this might be a good opportunity to give it the same rating. Oh no, let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, this is a very good opportunity to give it the same rating. You know why I say that? Because I gave the original Predator a 7, and I was debating back and forth between a 6 and a 7 for this, but this is a 7 for me.
Okay, so you liked it about the same, or maybe a little less?
I would say about the same. Yeah, about the same. When I was watching it, I was like, man, this might be a 9, right? And I was like, as I thought about it more, I was like, oh yeah, they were kind of tripping those like nostalgia for the original movie triggers, and that's why this like pinged for me a little bit. And the act, you know, but yeah, I think this is a 7 for me. Solid. Like, I'm probably not going to watch it again, but that's more of like a genre preference issue than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say I enjoyed this more the second time through, but I also it did highlight a couple of the niggling things that I didn't like. For example, they try to change up the way that they hide from the predator, so it's not covering yourself with mud, it's swallowing a plant that lowers your blood pressure so that you don't show up to its infrared. It's a little bit of thing, but it's not. You just know that that doesn't exist, right? It's they're stretching reality, the credulity of that reality, and also the idea that all the buffalo were kind of like in one place and all shot, and it's like, I mean, the first buffalo that gets shot is going to be like starting a stampede, so the buffalo are going to be in a, I don't know. I just didn't like that they were all skinned in one place.
No, that's sorry. So the buffalo were killed by the French.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what happened to the bison herds out west. They would just, I mean, because you got to remember, the bison herds numbered in the hundreds of thousands. So when hunters would hunt them with guns, they would be able to kill dozens and dozens of bison in the same place. Yeah.
All right.
So that's,
wow. Okay.
It's scary and gross, but it's real.
Yeah, well, that's my bad. So I gave it an 8 originally, and I think I'm going to stay with that because I liked it. In general, I liked it more. I also am hoping they make a sequel because they allude to it. I don't know if you watched any of the credits, but in the credits they have paintings that basically retell the story, and at the end, it has one more painting that shows her with her village, but then turning to see a bunch of spaceships coming in from the sky.
Clever.
And so, so there might be a sequel. And it was pretty universally revered. It has been nominated for several Emmys. So because it was a direct-to-Hulu movie, it's not eligible for any like real Oscar awards, but honestly, man, I think this would have done well in theaters, and I'm
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of sad that they didn't put it into theaters. I think it's probably COVID related or possibly related to the Fox Disney takeover that didn't. But yeah, maybe the next one will.
You could always rent out a movie theater and show it there.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Yeah. With all your
right,
disposable
great.
income.
Yeah, exactly. With all that extra money I've got. Well, Matt, tell me about the Beths.
Tell you about the Beths. Well, the Beths are an indie band from New Zealand, and I actually don't know a whole lot about them. They got together in 2014. They were schoolmates. That was not a New Zealand accent. Remind me not to try that anymore. And
Okay.
they released their first album in 2018. Their third album was released last year and is called Expert in a Dying Field. I've been exposed to it a few times lately and really, really dug it. And I was like, you know what? I want to get him some music that's a little more recent than what I've been giving him.
Wait, so this album came out last year?
Last year, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No,
he has
no,
thoughts.
keep going.
But
'Cause,
yeah, so I really like it. The lead singer Elizabeth, what is it? Elizabeth Stokes has a fantastic voice. Not overly showy or anything, but a beautiful, clear voice. I saw an NPR Tiny Desk concert that they did, which was super fun. What did you think of this album, Travis?
Well, I think you think that I'm gonna like this a lot, right?
No, I actually when I first listened to it after I signed it to you, there was like fuzz tone on the very first song, and I was like, oh, fuzz tone. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like that.
That didn't really bug me all
okay.
that much. Although I will say, okay, so on the face of it, like objectively, like if you turned this music into numbers somehow, like graphed out the different elements, and then compared it to the things that I've liked in the past, you would be fair in thinking that this is the kind of music that I would love. And I will say that some of the music and the instrumentals were pretty interesting, but overall, Matt, I kind of felt that it was extremely generic in a way. What it sounded like to me, and this is why I was a little bit surprised that it was so recent, what it sounded like to me is the band that shows up in every 90s show where the gang goes to the bar to hang out. Like in Buffy, it's the Bronze, or like wherever bar the gang's at One Tree Hill, or Dawson's Creek, when they all go to hang out at the club. This is the band that's playing on the stage. And that's what it felt like to me. Very CW, like, sounds like it should be really good, but ultimately kind of sounds like every other band around that time. There were a couple of songs to me that you know how last week, I think, and I've mentioned this before, occasionally when I get a really good song that I like, I'll pull out my phone and I'll be like, oh, what's this song?
That?
Yeah. I did that a few times with this album to pull it out to note which songs I really disliked.
Oh, really?
So the first one was "Silence Is Golden."
Okay.
I pulled out my phone because this song is very noisy and unpleasant to listen to. And then "Your Side" was kind of the same for a different reason. I pulled it out. I don't remember exactly why. The first song, which is the title track, "Experts in a Dying Field," I feel like it almost had poetry that was interesting, but I couldn't get past. Oh man, I hated the rhyming of "feel" and "field." I hated it so much.
Wow.
And every time they said it, "How do you feel to be an expert in a dying field?" I just kind of cringed because I feel like you could have done better with that rhyme scheme. And so that being said, that's the bad stuff first. And I know I have told you for 37 episodes that we should start with the stuff we liked. I'm sorry for starting with the bad stuff, but I'm in a cruddy mood. I will say that towards the end of the album, I either started to get used to the music, or it was better, and I liked the back half of this album quite a bit more than the front half.
Interesting.
So I could separate those
Mm-hmm.
and then do an average,
Mm-hmm.
or I could just rate the whole thing at once. Yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't love her singing. It again.
Yeah, I will say you do seem to have a little bit of I think you were raised on like 80s divas, and so someone like this who has a very pleasant voice but not a super strong voice, like it's a little thin in the upper register, and
Yeah.
isn't like, doesn't have like a whole lot of oomph behind it, I think is maybe something that just doesn't appeal to you.
Well, you know what it is? I think I like I love a singer who is what's the word I'm looking for? Like a prodigy somehow? Like someone who I couldn't go down and hear at karaoke, you know? And I feel like I could probably just go down and hear this girl sing at karaoke, and she'd be down there at the bar, and she's about that good. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. No, I don't think that's unfair at all. I will say, as somebody who records a bunch of music in his basement, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? She's very competent, and I would say even she's good, right?
Yeah.
She's just not great, or she's not a Florence. I don't even know what Florence's last name is. She's not a Florence and the Machine. She's not a Whitney Houston. She's not a Tina Turner. She's not,
Right.
like a powerhouse of a voice. She's got to me, a really nice, pleasant voice.
Yeah.
And I think some of her melodies, so these are all songs that they've written. Some of her melodies are pretty clever and interesting. Maybe a little bit of overuse of repetition. I think one of the things that might have irritated you about Silence is Golden, in addition to the fact that it's loud and kind of, chaotic, is for a 3-minute song, there's an impressive amount of repetition in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that none of these songs were very long, and that was one of the things that I expected to dislike really last week, is when looking at the playlist, a lot of these were like 6 and 7 minute songs. You got none of that here. All these are like 2, 3, 4 minutes max. And so if a song does not appeal to you, it doesn't last for very long.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
it'll be
I will
it'll be
give that
over
to its
soon.
credit. Yeah, and I'll agree with you. She is good. She's. I mean, I have. I'll go to that same karaoke bar and hear a lot of bad and mediocre singers, and I'm not saying that she is one of those at all. She's definitely one of the good ones. It's just but I agree. She's not great. It's not someone that I would stand up and go, "Wow, I really love your voice." And I think, to be honest, there's something about her voice that maybe grated on me in a way that Sufjan Stevens, I remember I said that his voice, even though he didn't have a whole lot going on, was so nice and pleasant. Her voice, I didn't have that same experience. Again, I didn't dislike it, really, like not in a severe way anyway.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it either.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I really find this pleasant. I look forward to digging a little more into the rest of their catalog. They have 2 other albums, and I think they're, my understanding is they're pretty consistent, so I expect to dig them. I will say, Travis, that I have learned that I cannot reliably predict whether or not you're going to like something. So I'm not terribly surprised that you don't like it, but I am disappointed that you don't like it, because I feel like this is a perfect 3 o'clock on a Sunday type of album.
Yeah, you would have thought that, right? And
Yeah.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. And I love that we have different tastes, and I also love that you brought me something that you weren't super familiar with. Like I was thinking about that on my walk today, and thinking that eventually we're going to run out of our quote unquote favorite movies. And so like, then what do we do? Well, we just, bring stuff that we discover and that we like and that, that I want to expose you to and that you want to expose me to. And I think this is a great example of that. And I don't begrudge you that at all. I'm glad to have had the experience of listening to this album, as I have valued most of the albums that I've listened to. I could not shake that 90s WB TV show feel.
So on this subject, Travis, I did kind of want to give you this YouTube video to watch that touches on a lot of the issues that we have talked about in the show. It's called The Death of Indie Music by a YouTuber named the Punk Rock MBA. Or sorry, The Death of Indie Rock by the Punk Rock MBA. And it's a really nice overview of sort of the rise of indie rock in the 90s and the like peak of indie rock, which we have covered a lot of, like the Strokes and Interpol and New Pornographers and other bands like that in the mid 2000s. And one of the things that it really covers pretty extensively is the importance of those like WB or CW shows, specifically the OC. Getting featured, getting featured on those shows was like a huge boost for indie bands' careers, and there was, a big upwelling of this very specific type of, like, let's be honest, like white upper middle class, somewhat nerdy but not like too nerdy music that it doesn't. I would say the best of it doesn't all sound the same, but there is like a significant chunk of bands that maybe for you are similar to the Beths that kind of, land in that kind of indie pop, not, loud, but not too loud and not too offensive zone, good singing, but not great singing zone.
Right. They had to be believable at the club, on the TV show. They had to be believable as that band that's in the club. But also they are a band that the show could afford to, put on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyways, I would love it if you'd watch that video. It is like 20 minutes long, but I don't know, maybe you have time. And I'll drop the link in the show description as well, so our listeners can watch it. Because the thing that I liked about it as I was watching it was I just kept going, oh yeah, these are points that we've made on the podcast over this year, or maybe it even explained a little more than I've been able to articulate. So I really liked that and thought it was a really good recommendation for you.
Nice. Yeah, I will check that out. Anything else you want to say about the Beths, or should we go to the ratings?
Let's go to the ratings.
Okay, well, so last week I gave Sufjan a 5, but qualified it as a very good potential to be higher in the future. I think that I'm going to give the Beths the same rating, a 5, but
with no potential.
I think possibly the opposite. Like, if there's a possibility that I might like them better on repeated listenings, but there's also a possibility where I might get more perturbed by the things that I dislike.
Yeah, I might get more perturbed. I love that phrasing. Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. I actually expected you to rate it below Sufjan Stevens. Let's see. What would I give this? Gosh, I feel like I give everything an 8, which means I really like it. But I've got to give this an 8. I really like it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. You're honest, and I like that about you.
Yeah. It's to my detriment, I'm sure, but
Not a bit. All right. Well, do you know what you've got for me for next week?
I do know what I've got for you next week, and I'm going to ask you the question that you love it when I ask you, which is, have you ever heard of Paramore?
Oh, I think I have.
I thought you might have.
I'll bet that I know a song by Paramore.
They are a very, very big band. I guess I would say they're pop punk. And they're led by Hayley Williams, who is a very dynamic and excellent singer. And they're a 3-piece. They have been around for a good 20 years. But
Really?
she was
Okay.
like 16 or something when they got started, 16 or 17, very young.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're a big band. They headline festivals and all that sort of thing. They came out with a new album earlier this year called This Is Why, but I made you a playlist. It is 11 tracks long, and it's a pretty wide-ranging playlist across their career. They have some really, really good stuff. I would say one of the things that I really dig about Paramore is that they have a really great ear for like hooks and poppy, like the stuff that's going to catch your ear, but that
Uh-huh.
their songs don't all sound the same, which is an important thing in pop punk because certainly it's a genre where everything can very much sound the
Right.
same.
And
So,
definitely something I have bemoaned in recent weeks
yeah, for sure.
yeah, things being too repetitive and similar from song to song. All right, I'm interested to explore that. I can't think of what song I might know from them, but I feel like the name is so familiar to me that I must know a song from them. So,
I mean, I think
fascinating.
maybe Still Into You or maybe Misery Business. I don't know. I'm
Still
curious.
into you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds right. Okay,
That's
great.
the one.
Well,
Yeah, Still Into You.
I'm excited to explore more of them. So, have you seen the movie Looper?
No.
Okay, with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis, and also Emily Blunt for what it's worth, and Paul Dano. It's got a pretty interesting cast. Jeff Daniels is in it, and it was directed by Ryan Johnson. I think it wasn't quite his breakout hit. I'm going to give you this one before I then take you back to maybe his kind of breakout indie drama. But this is a sci-fi concept, kind of very high concept action thriller. It stars, well, I already told you that, but it's about oh gosh, I don't even want to tell you what it's about. It's kind of a time travel-y, trippy thing, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a
He's my
young
favorite Gordon
Bruce
Levitt,
Willis.
you know.
He is my favorite. He's my favorite Gordon-Levitt too. I've actually been a fan of his since Third Rock from the Sun. He's a really great young actor that became a really great plain actor. Just actor, full stop. So yeah, this is the movie that I'm going to have you watch. It came out in 2012, so it's a good 10, 11 years old. It only had a budget of $30 million, so it's not a big budget thing. It's all about the story and the concept, but it made $178 million at the box office.
Nice.
So yeah, decently successful, and led to Ryan Johnson directing one of the Star Wars sequels.
Is that the one I liked? 8?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay, he's
If
the
you
guy.
did,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yes, I
it
did.
was fairly controversial as a sequel, but it's and we can talk about that a little bit if you ever want to. But that's what I got for you for next week.
Well, I just want you to know that my opinions about Star Wars sequels are right and yours are wrong.
Oh, okay, good,
Yeah,
good to know. Good to know.
yeah, and I think I know where you're at with that. But anyways, yeah, no, Looper sounds fun. I've heard of it. I don't know too much about it.
Yeah. Well, it's probably been about 10 years since I've watched it too, so I remember only snippets and vague generalities at this
right.
point. So
Snippets
yeah.
and Vague
Hey,
Generalities is another good name for a band.
is
Or
a
an
great
album.
name.
Yeah.
I am just coming up
Snippets
an
and-
album. Do you know I used to have back in college, friends of mine, one of them maintained a band names page,
Nice.
and anytime we were talking and we would say something like that, someone could yell band name. And they got to claim that as a band name for their list on the page.
Oh,
and
nice.
I had, I believe, the biggest list. But there was a big there was definitely competition between me and Eric Steffens.
Oh, sure.
Between who reigned supreme on that list.
Well,
Anyway,
I think yours was
if-
bigger.
Thank you. Listener, if you would like to expose yourself to us, please email us at exposingourselvespodcast@gmail.com. And if you would like to join us on Facebook, you can search for Exposing Ourselves there and let us know what you thought of the things we reviewed today. Did you like the music better than I did? Did you like Pray better than Matt did? And let us know. And Matt,
Yes, Travis.
thank you for exposing yourself to me.
Oh, Travis, you're welcome. Thank you for exposing yourself to me.
It is always my pleasure.
It sure is.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Bye-bye. they'll fight with sword and mace in hand. Oh, we died today. Yeah, we died today. Generals call for a charge. The boys are dying by and large. Politicians think it's okay, but mothers know their sons died today. Oh, we died today. Yeah, we died today. We alright, they say. We alright, they say. We alright, they say. Oh, we died today. Oh, we died today. We alright, they say. We alright, they say. We alright.